Bedlington-based Stephanie Ward is a rapid implementation specialist, founder of Stephanie Ward and Co., Spicy Brain Energy, and the Spicy Brain Collective, helping high-performing business owners turn big ideas into businesses that can actually deliver. Coming from a family of entrepreneurs, Steph has a business in the background from early on, but her original plan wasn't to become a founder herself. She wanted to become a doctor, but then life had other plans. Steph had hit dysplasia, and by the age of 25, she was using a wheelchair. The years that followed included multiple surgeries, physiotherapy, and many hours spent in hospital. But it was during that time in hospital that Steph's entrepreneurial career began, with her refusing to have tuna sandwiches 3 days in a row and a craving for fried chicken. What might seem like a small win to most, that refusal to accept the status quo was the start of something much bigger. Steph was mobile again within 11 weeks, and after a suggestion from a friend, she became a VA, landing her first client within 24 hours. As a parent to a neurodivergent child and someone later diagnosed with ADHD herself, Stephanie has seen firsthand how capable people can be misunderstood, underestimated, or forced to fit into structures where they were never designed for them. And the more she worked with brilliant business owners, the more she saw the same thing happening there too. Brilliant entrepreneurs were being held back because the way they were working, trying to run their business, didn't work the way their brains did. That's where the Spicy Brain Collective began. Stephanie created a free community for neurodivergent entrepreneurs and people who actually think differently, giving them a place to find support, confidence, practical help, and people who actually get it. The same belief now runs through all of her work. Stephanie works with entrepreneurs who already have the vision, the revenue, and the drive, but are stuck behind messy operations, decision fatigue, and back end chaos. Her role is to diagnose the bottleneck and deploy the right team to fix it. And perhaps what sums up Steph the best is something she said herself: strategy without implementation is just hallucination. Steph, welcome to Stories That Sell. I mean, what a journey you've been on and continue to go on every single day. I've known you for a while, and we first met back at the big festoon when you were speaking at the event. And I remember you saying to me as we were in the lift going up to the green room, and for the listeners that don't know, I actually help out as part of the flight squad for Danny Wallace in the big festoon, and Steph was speaking on stage for the first time at that event, and you were standing in the lift and you're going, people like me don't get opportunities like this. And I just remember that first moment of you. And from there on in, I followed your journey because it's just inspiring from what you come from to what you continue to do and how you just tackle the challenges head on where they just seem impossible some days. So, it's such a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. And honestly, it's a pleasure to be here. But it's so true that people who are like me don't get the right opportunities unless they are really good at hiding the fact that they're like me. And there's like for me, I've been on this huge like unmasking journey over the last few years because I think when you're hiding parts of yourself, you're not you. Do you know what I mean? It's like being a filter. Like I'm all for like curated vulnerability and hiding the parts that, for example, there's things that you don't want to talk about on the internet, like the size of the poop you had this morning, right? But there's things that you should talk about because if you're not talking about who you are at your core, you're not selling the right person. And like one thing that I'm really proud to model every day is what unmasking looks like. Like I did a conversation this morning for the Atomicon that we're at in a couple of weeks, and I need to show you what I did. So I was sitting doing this thing with tiny hands because I had them on a table. I was like, nobody's ever sad when you pull the tiny hands out. And it's like, it doesn't bother me that I've got my little tiny hands on my fingers, but it just puts people at ease because they're just like, that's ridiculous. And like, I can be ridiculous and also have a successful business, right? So many business owners think you need to be a way or do a thing, but you can also have tiny hands and googly eyes.
I love a googly eye. I mean, it's so true though, because it's almost like we've been conditioned to think that business should be done in this really serious way. No one should care, it's just business. But it's never just business, is it? It's
No,
never just that.
it's never just business. And like something that like the people that I work with, we are the kind of people who take it personally. This is our baby, this is our passion. We don't just do this for funsies. We've done this because we are passionate about the work that we do. And if you don't bring passion to it, if you're not excited by it every day, you're in the wrong job. Like, I've got a couple of things that I like to say about business. If it doesn't excite you every day in some kind of way, you're in the wrong job. And if it dysregulates you to the point of unbearability every day, you're in the wrong job as well. Because guess what? Like, being an entrepreneur shouldn't hurt you that bad. Like, it's going to be stressful. You're going to have to put the hard work in, but there's also going to be days of absolute joy. And if you're not getting any of the extremes, it's not right for you. You have to be able to feel both ends of that, but the joy should definitely outweigh the despair.
Yeah, that's such a powerful sentence, because when I started my first business, the cafe and the bar, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing in that, but it was out of pure passion. There was, I mean, obviously I had the business planning. It was I'd done all the work to kind of see whether it was viable, but it was out of passion. And you can't take the highs without the lows, right? It is exactly that. I mean, there were some days where I used to call them Savage Saturdays, where I'd walk home in tears because someone didn't make a nice comment to me. I mean, I'd really take it all personally. It's just a business, but
Oh, yeah.
it's so true. I love the fact that you're kind of highlighting that you need both ends of the spectrum, because it reminds you of, this is what a business is. It's the full emotion.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is that because it is a passion-led thing, we are going to take it personally. Like, it was really funny last week. I was on with a client. I've had this client for 3 years. She's wonderful. She's an ex-social worker. She's 79. She's from Ireland. She's an absolute firecracker. I think she's about 4'9". She's a teen little lady. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman. And during the call, we have a little bit of catch up at the beginning and just kind of check in with each other. And she said to me at the end, she went, "Is there anything I can do for you?" I was like, why would you do something for me? And she's like, well, just, I figured people don't check on you very often. And this is the thing, is when you're a service-based business, is that you are there to serve, and people don't actually see you as human at times. And that breaks my heart, that, like, you have these conversations every day with people, you're serving them, you're doing the content, you're cosplaying as them online effectively if you're doing the marketing, right? And they don't necessarily see you as the human being behind that. Somebody recently said that they've seen me as like the human embodiment of AI because of how my brain works. It's like you ask ChatGPT a question and I pop out all the answers. But also they comment that it's very important to see that I am still a human. I'm not just a computer that you can shout abuse at and the words will come out. And that humanity, we forget humans in business a lot of the time, because you've got the big corporations. Like, you wouldn't, in a big business, you wouldn't expect Richard Branson to serve the coffees on a Virgin flight, right? And yet
No,
people expect business owners who have a team to be very on the ground. And actually, when businesses change, we aren't on the ground every day. And like, that's been something for me, is that, when I was on the tools every day doing the work, I got a lot more feedback and compliments than I do as someone who's leading the team, because the majority of my work is event planning and running payroll and doing admin and all the boring stuff, like ordering posters, the things that people don't see. But somebody has to do that. And so you don't get that positive feedback. As your business grows, it does change how you feel about it. And if the despair is outweighing the joy, you need to figure out a way around that. Like, do you need to have a day a week on the tools? Because for me, the human interaction and actually seeing the expressions on people's faces when I've made that difference is what kept me going. So I've had to really look at how I work as the business has changed, because I need to be able to feel that joy, and it's the one-to-one contact that brings that.
that is such a good way of putting it. Have there been real moments where you thought, this isn't the business for me anymore, and you've nearly binned it?
Absolutely. In towards the end of 2024, I had an employee who I considered a really good friend, and unfortunately she left my company and she took customers with her to the tune of about £110,000. And I did not see that coming. So I'm usually, one of my special skills is forensic IT. I can find out anything. You want to know someone's dead nana's reading taste, I can have it in 15 minutes. But I did not see that coming. And honestly, I haven't spoken about it a lot. It broke my heart. And I contacted Dan Meredith, because he was my business coach at the time. And I said, how much is it going to be to have 2 days with you at Christmas? Because I need to make a decision here. And I sunk £12,000 into Dan Meredith, and I flew to Bristol, and I had 2 days lying on the rug in his living room crying, basically, is what I did. I lay on a rug and I cried because I was ready to jack it all in. And I started something which I named the 391 Days Project, which was never an official thing. It wasn't content, it wasn't documented. But between the day of deciding and the 31st of December 2025, I had decided that if I hadn't found the joy again, I was shutting it all down. And what I did over the course of that 391 days was act as if I was going to shut it down, but also act as if I wasn't. So it was like very much, I had two businesses, Stephanie Ward Online Business Services and Spicy Brain Energy. And they did similar but different things, which is why they were separate. But I figured that they were getting to the point where they're becoming similar enough that actually for tax purposes, they probably needed to be smushed anyway. So I thought, if I am going to get rid of this, it's best to put it in a name that's not attached to my name. So I transferred everything into Stephanie, into Spicy Brain Energy, and got rid of Stephanie Ward Online Business Services. But I also invested in sponsoring Atomicon. I invested in Danny Wallace. I invested in Dan Meredith. And I very much like, it's like on 13 Reasons Why at the end, where she says, I'm going to give it one last go. And that's exactly what I did. Like, I spent probably £45,000 on different marketing opportunities expoing, and I just went all in, but also planned in the back end as if I wasn't going to be there. So making sure I had scalable systems, making sure everything tied up so that if I did want to sell the business, it would be easy for someone to just pick it up and continue running it. And there was a moment for me, and it was at the Big Festoon in October last year. And Amy Blaney came to me and she went, I need a word with you. I went, whatever I did, I'm sorry, because I immediately assume I've done something wrong. And basically there'd been a conversation between me and one of my clients where she hadn't realised that Amy's son Scott was only 17. And I was like, oh yeah, he's just little. And I was like, maybe check in with his mum. And she was like, oh my God, like, yeah, because they'd had a conversation and she didn't realise he was a minor. So she went straight to Amy and she went, yeah, I'm so sorry. I didn't realise he was little. And Amy said to me, she went, for a long time, nobody actually respected my autonomy around my children. And I didn't like, she didn't even know that I knew who she was. I was like, of course I know who you are, you daft sausage, what? And like, I started crying. And then Ben had spoken on stage. My best friend, Ben Franklin, just broke my heart that day. I mean, you saw those here. That was ugly crying. That was a lot. And then I had another one where somebody else had just said like something that I had done had an impact. And I realised on that day that I wasn't done, that everything that I had done had paid off. It had restored the joy. I was having the impact that I always wanted to have. And I turned around to Ben and to Abby, who works for me, and I was like, the project's over. I've made my decision. I'm not giving up. And bless Abby, who works for me, she's a lot more autistic than she realizes. And she's very, very excellent, but really bad with emotion. She's like, do you want a hug? I was like, and I just cried all over it and I got a hug. But I realized that day that I wasn't done yet. And every day since, I've woken up, and even on the worst days, I've been able to find something about my business that brings me joy, whether it's Chloe turning up on content day and being the main character, or whether it's Neve just making someone feel seen in the community. I've been able to wake up every day and think, this is my purpose, this is my passion, and I can keep going.
I really love the fact that you gave yourself that time to kind of go, I've got a timeline of when I'm going to make a decision on this, and I'm going to just observe how I feel about it. Yeah. And I think it's particularly at the moment, there are so many people that are in this current climate knee-jerking and thinking, I need to be in my business because it's not working, it's too hard. What you see online has changed 5 minutes later. They're getting completely confused as to what they should and shouldn't be doing. And, they're not sticking at it, which, when you've got ADHD, it's easy to want to start a new business every single day. I mean, I would have some crazy businesses right now. So I love the fact that you kind of challenged yourself to find that passion and put it back into something that really found you joy and gave you that purpose to know that you had something bigger than you, which I absolutely love.
I needed it. And I think as well, that knowing that the 31st of December was like a deadline, it's like, I've given myself permission. It's like, you can leave. And that's something I use as a parent as well. I've always said to my son, if you're ever unhappy with something, you can leave. And it's like, I had a bad job years ago. I was working in care, and the managers had put me on a care rotation that would put me in physical danger because my mum's ex-partner had like physically assaulted her, and he was going to be living in the area I was working in the morning and working as a mobile provident collector on a bike in the afternoon. So there was very real possibility I could come into contact with this man, and I'd reported him to the police for the domestic assault. And I had said to them, I'll do rural, I'll do all the ridiculous calls, but I can't do these 2 areas for the next few weeks. And I got my rota and was all of those 2 areas. And I realised in that moment that they did not care about me. So I went in and I says, please take me off your payroll. I won't be returning after today. And I felt so empowered, right? And I got all the way back to my granddad to tell him and burst into tears. I was like, I've got no job. But the thing is that I think we stay in things that don't work for us, whether it's a relationship or a job or a business, because we feel like we have to prove something. And like I say to my son, if he's unhappy at a sleepover, for example, in the middle of the night, if he calls me at 4 a.m, Mum, I'm not happy, I'll go and pick him up. And if the parents don't let him come, no, that is my son. He wants to leave. I will let him leave. And I'm trying to instill that in him because I don't want him to put himself in any position in life where he feels he can't. And for me, a big part of what I did in business was that permission. Like, I can leave this. I do not have to do this if it doesn't make me happy anymore. And so that's why I walked away. Like, that's why I was ready to walk away. You know, that's why I could have done either of it. In the end, like I say, I've stayed and I've stuck it out, and I'm not sad about that at all. But we don't give ourselves enough permission to say we're done, because I think fear and shame come of it. We shame ourselves into trying to please others, and actually we're only letting ourselves down there.
Yeah, shame is a powerful emotion. I mean, every day I still feel shame for having to close the cafe and let people go. You know, it that broke my heart. That was a day, and I'll regret lots of decisions, even though they were all the right ones at the time and logically, but emotionally, shame is still that overriding factor. And it's interesting that when you think about what makes us happy and what brings us joy, and we as entrepreneurs often commit to a business idea, sell everybody down the dream with us, and then it's not quite right, it feels like we can't turn around and go back on it or change it or do something different or move forward in a different way. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you're giving your son the opportunity to make those decisions of when something's not right and say, actually, no, I don't want to do this, it's fine, that's absolutely okay.
Yeah, and it comes down to intuition as well, though. Like, neurodivergent people, particularly those with ADHD, there's actual research on this. We get 20,000 more corrective messages before the age of 10 from the adults around us. So we get told, don't run, like, don't eat like that, don't hit your brother, don't do this. We get our behavior corrected 20,000 times more than the average 10-year-old. The reason the data doesn't exist beyond the age of 10 is because it doesn't just come from adults after that, it comes from our peers as well. So they can't quantify that. Now, that's terrifying. Can you imagine being told that what you think of yourself as a human being is wrong constantly? Like, you're walking too fast, you shouldn't do it like that, you shouldn't do it like this. You will lose your intuition. And the thing is, like, there's also research, and there's actually proven cases where adults with things like autism, ADHD are more likely to die from things like constipation, because we don't have interoception, so we don't know what our body feelings mean. One of my clients, a charity in Cambridgeshire, one of their clients died of constipation because she couldn't tell the difference between needing to go to the toilet and anxiety. So she ended up, it killed her. And the thing is that if we aren't used to what the feelings in our bodies mean, whether it's actually medical pain or like physical issues or just anxiety or apprehension or excitement or joy, and some of them feel so similar, it's hard to know which is which. If we don't trust our intuition, we can do things so wrong. This is what worries me about AI, is that people will go to ChatGPT and say, hey, what do you think of my business idea? And ChatGPT, I'm telling you now, has a praise kink, because it will tell you, like, you are amazing. It will want to be told it's a good little girl. So ChatGPT will praise your idea, say how wonderful it is. You could run down that path for 2-3 years trying to flog that idea because ChatGPT said it was good, and actually it's not what the world needs, and it certainly isn't what you need. If you don't truly feel with every fibre of your being that what you're doing is right for you, you're not going to put your best into it. And like, even on, like, say, on my worst days, because I do have them, I know that the Spicy Brain Collective has an impact. Flipping out, I was in a nightclub at a West End musical party day on Saturday, and there was a lady next to me, and she said, have I missed anything? I goes, oh no, the singer's on yet, don't worry. We got talking. She asked how me and Anna knew each other, because it was Anna Fox I was with.
Oh, amazing.
Me and Anna were having the best time. And she went, how do you know each other? I said, oh, we met through Danny Wallace. She went, you're Stephanie Ward. I'm like, am I? Because I always assume, like, what have I done? And she went, yeah, I'm in your community. And she told me what her last name was, because I'm face blind, I hadn't connected it. She was in my community, but something about me in that room made her feel safe enough to talk to me. And we end up having the best time raving to Chim Chimney, Chim Chimney, Chim Chim Chimney from Mary Poppins. Was not on my bucket list. It was great. But we did that, and it's like, it's little things like that where people see me as a safe space that remind me I'm on the right path. Yeah, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah. And what you are sharing with the world is so important. And like what you say with AI, we can almost we're almost becoming dependent because it's easy to be there rather than actually thinking and questioning and trusting that judgment. But it's also taking away a bit of our intuition and that kind of gut feeling. I mean, you've had a real journey, not only from business perspective, but health wise. How is like having to advocate for your health a lot of the time because you've had to go through a lot more than the average person? How has that really challenged you? Because in those environments, and I've had many run-ins with doctors where I don't always agree with what they say, it's really hard to not come away and feel like you're completely stupid because that's often what happens.
It is what happens. I mean, for such a long time, my doctor told me that the reason my back hurt was because I had a bad relationship with my mum and that my dad had left. And my mum and I, our relationship has been turbulent over the years. That's not a secret. But it turns out I had hip dysplasia. Now that's a birth defect. That's not something that comes from having an argument with your mum. That's something that comes from being born the wrong shape. And I knew, like, when I had my son, I got pregnant at 21, which is entirely intentional, despite what people might think. And I just had a feeling that there was going to be a reason why I wouldn't have children later in life. So I did have him young. And I've ended up having my pelvis reconstructed. My pelvis is now shaped like a peanut. So that wouldn't be conducive to pushing out a baby. But it was one of those things where I just had a feeling, but I knew there was something wrong with me. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but I knew that didn't feel like the right fit for me because I just knew there was something not feeling right in my bones. And it was the doctor retired on the Thursday. The following Tuesday, I saw a different doctor who was young and female. She's like, I'm not liking the whole crutches wheelchair situation because I wasn't diagnosed with anything when I was in a wheelchair. And she sent me for an x-ray and I saw on my x-ray it was the wrong shape. And so I went down all this path of getting, seeing an orthopedic surgeon who is, by the way, Ajay Malvaya is the nicest guy in the world. He's now an honorary professor. He's a genius. He changed my life. He's the reason that I'm able to do the things I do now. And then after all that was kind of concluded, the brain fog and the tiredness and the just the brain meltiness hadn't gone away. And I was sitting on a call with a client. This was one of the funniest days of my life. She went, "When were you diagnosed?" I was like, "What, with my hip dysplasia?" She went, "No, ADHD." I went, "I ain't got that." She went, "Honey, I'm a diagnostic practitioner." She's a GP who does ADHD assessments. She was like, "You might want to look at that." I was like, "Oh." So I had a look at what ADHD is and how it affects them because I was working with ADHD clients on the provisos I have a special needs child. And actually, the reason he's special needs, it wasn't just his dad. This was a collaboration. We did this together. His dad's got a lot of very autistic traits. I have gone on to get diagnosed autistic as well. But it's like reading about it, I got really dark really quickly because I was like, how has nobody spotted this? And like, it just happened, I was talking to another client who does pre-assessments in the private sector who was like, "You've helped me with my access to work. Let me write this letter for you and get you into a private doctor quickly." 3 weeks later, I was seen and diagnosed, and the medication, I can honestly say, saved my life. Because I no longer felt completely inadequate as a human because my brain actually worked. And what I've learned over the years of having the special needs child, having to fight for my health, having to fight for his diagnosis because I was a young mum who nobody would listen to, is that I know how to fill in DLA forms, PIP forms, access to work applications, but I also know exactly what mechanisms to go down to trigger people, like in powers that be, to make sure people get the right help. And so while I don't necessarily publicize that part of my business, it's something that we have got involvement in. If a client comes and they're struggling for money, it's like, you should be getting PIP because this is why. And we help people do that. We've had so much success getting these benefits for clients because they're not related to your income, they're related to your needs. And if you have those needs, you are entitled to that. And having to support people to realize that they can have that help when they're so used to fending for themselves, like, it can be so powerful because it's just that, shit, I deserve that. Yes, you do deserve that. You deserve help. I think if there's one thing I could say to every single human in the world, is that you all deserve help. We're all scared to ask for help. We're all scared of looking needy. But the reality is we all deserve to be helped and loved and cherished.
Yeah. And those forms, they are so complicated. They are not easy. And unless someone tells you about them, you have no idea they exist, do you?
No, and the thing is, even when you do know that the forms exist and you fill them in and you do the work, my own PIP assessment, I got a 37-page medical report back. And I was actually at Danny's with it just after it came back, trying to kind of go through some of the things that it said. And it said that because I can drive an automatic car, right, I can apparently stand up to make groceries. My left leg don't work properly. So I don't need it in an automatic car.
No.
but I would need it to stand up to make groceries. And a lot of the things they said around, my medication, oh, well, medication therapy seems to be working really well. It's like, well, if I said that, that shows a significant cognitive impairment, because 3 days after the appointment, all of my meds were changed because I passed out twice in a day. So if the meds aren't stopping me from passing out, because I also have a heart condition, they're not working well. So they've either lied in the report, or I have told them something that's not true, and that demonstrates that I'm not well. So I was going through the report, and what was really hard was that just the volume of errors. But it happened, the PIP woman rang me, and I just got really upset. I said, look, I'm struggling. I can't do paperwork, and I don't have any help today. My PA is not here today. So I don't know what to do. And she went, what is it that you want? And I said, what I want is you to look at the mobility element again, because that's been changed, and look at this part in terms of my bathing, because I can't have a bath unless someone else is in the house because of the risk of passing out getting out of the bath. And this woman was really kind. It was really, really unusual to see this. She went, I'll look at the evidence. If I can overturn the mobility element, would you be happy to just that be it? And I was like, honestly, yes. Like, I won't score enough points on the daily care because I can do a lot, but I would really appreciate if you could do that. And this woman just said, I've got you. She went away. She came back the next day and she overturned the decision. But it was just that little bit of humanity in that moment, seeing how much I was struggling. And she was like, I think I can fix this without you having to work any harder. And it's like, if you ask for people help, if you be honest, people say, I'm struggling right now and I need your help. Guess what? There's so many good people around us. They're all going to muck in, whether it's your business, whether it's your personal life. If you say you're stuck, good people are everywhere. Look for the helpers because they're never far away.
Oh, yeah, I think, and do you know, also having someone that just takes the time to just go, listen, I'll listen to you. I'll give you that space so you can tell me what you need. Because it often feels like we go into things and we are talked at, or people make very big assumptions on where we might be, and not being able to actually just go, what do you need? What is it that you want? I had my dad's best friend, who's no longer with us. He broke his neck in a rugby accident, and he was paralyzed from the sixth vertebrae down. And he spent the majority of his life in a wheelchair. And one question that always stood out, he would get phoned up about, what he needs, and they would always start with, what can't you do? And he would always go back and say, I'd rather start with what I can. And it's just that change in mindset. It's like, well, clearly you can't do stuff, but actually, why don't we just start the other end of, I can do a lot? I mean, he was incredible at what he could do. He could throw in the most amazing party. He did so much charity fundraising, but it just goes to show that some people just focus on the wrong things sometimes.
They do. And like, the one thing that I've taken through my business since the very beginning is this one quote, which I share every time I get the opportunity, is start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Because we've all got something we're good at. Every single person in the world has got a talent. They have got something that they love, that they're passionate about. Start with that. Use what you have available. My first day in business, I had Brian's old laptop, that's my ex, and I had an iPad with a £7 keyboard I bought on Amazon. That was me in my first day of business. And I just did what I could every day. I just, as people said, can you do this? I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. And that's how I've built the business to what it is. I don't have qualifications in all the things I do. I've learned it by throwing myself in at the deep end and refusing to fail at it. And, caffeine, spite, and a little bit of audacity, I think, is what fuels me these days, because it's that refusal to accept anything less than what I want for myself. Like, my version of manifestation is, the universe invented 100% of everything. Why would it do that if you were meant to experience 1%? But it's also not going to land in your lap. So you need to do as much as you can to bring the things closer that you're meant to experience. So, I do work hard and I do earn money, but that money means that I can experience new things. It means I can help more people. It means I can do big stuff. And it's like, I'm not telling everyone to hustle, grind yourself into the ground, but you do have to be prepared to put hard work in with anything in life. Or guess what? You're going to hang out, because the world's not going to just drop it in your lap and hope for the best. It doesn't work that way.
If only it did, right? If only it did. But actually, the reward comes from that work, that success, that feeling of achieving something that you thought was sometimes not possible. You can't beat that. Steph, I could talk to you all day. It's been an amazing conversation. Where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, so the best place to find me at the minute is on Instagram. My Instagram is I am Stephanie Ward. You can also find the company at the Spicy Brain Collective on all socials as well. And we would love to be everybody's friend. Like, please be all of our friends on Instagram so we can send each other reels, because that's my love language.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Steph. It's been a joy. All of these links will go into the show notes. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.